The Phantom Nurse of St. Bartholomew's Hospital. In the heart of 19th century London, St. Bartholomew's Hospital was an imposing structure. Founded in the 12th century, the hospital had seen countless patients come and go, enduring the turbulence of wars, epidemics, and plagues. But it was the Victorian era that left behind the most chilling of tales, one that nurses and doctors whispered about during late-night shifts. The ghostly figure of a nurse, long since passed, yet still tending to her eternal rounds. It was the year 1853, during the height of a cholera outbreak, when Nurse Emily Ravenscroft served in the wards. Known for her tireless devotion, she worked long hours caring for patients despite the constant risk of infection. But what truly set her apart was her compassion. She was often seen sitting by the dying, holding their hands, easing their final moments. It was rumored that she had a particular affection for children, many of whom succumbed to disease in the crowded, poorly ventilated wards of St. Bartholomew's. Emily's tireless work eventually caught up with her. One cold evening in November, as the hospital ward filled with the groans of the sick, Emily collapsed, stricken by the very illness she had fought so hard to heal. Within days, she succumbed to cholera, her death sending a ripple of sorrow through the hospital. However, her story didn't end with her death. Not long after her passing, strange occurrences began to be reported. Patients would speak of a kind nurse who came to them at night, offering comfort and whispering soothing words. When doctors asked for descriptions, these patients consistently described Nurse Emily Ravenscroft, down to the white lace cap she always wore. But there was one problem. Emily had been buried weeks before. At first, these tales were dismissed as the feverish hallucinations of the ill. But soon, the hospital staff began to have their own unsettling experiences. On several occasions, nurses returning from their rounds late at night would see a figure in an old-fashioned nurse's uniform passing through the ward. When they called out to her, the figure would turn the corner and vanish into thin air. The most notorious sighting occurred in 1865, when Dr. William Harrington, a respected physician, was on a late shift during an outbreak of scarlet fever. As he reviewed patient charts in a dimly lit corridor, he noticed a nurse moving swiftly from bed to bed in the children's ward. He observed her for a while, noting how she bent down to comfort each child. Curious, he walked toward her to offer assistance. As he drew closer, she turned to face him. To his horror, the nurse's face was not that of the living, but pale and hollow, with eyes that glistened with a spectral light. She gave him a soft, sad smile before fading into the shadows. Word of the incident spread quickly, and Dr. Harrington, who had been a staunch skeptic of the supernatural, became a believer. He described the encounter to his colleagues in chilling detail, insisting that it was Nurse Emily, still watching over the children she had cared for in life. The hauntings continued over the years. Patients, particularly children, claimed to feel a gentle hand on their forehead when fever burned through them. Some reported hearing soft humming, as if a lullaby were being sung in the empty ward. Nurses who ventured into the hospital's attic, the place where Emily's old nursing supplies were stored, spoke of cold drafts and the feeling of being watched. As the 19th century drew to a close, the stories of Emily Ravenscroft became legend. To this day, some claim that her spirit still lingers in the oldest parts of St. Bartholomew's, forever bound to her duty as a caregiver. And while the hospital has changed with the times, expanding and modernizing, the ghost of the Victorian nurse remains, a reminder of the compassion and tragedy that defined the era. Historical background. St. Bartholomew's Hospital. St. Bartholomew's Hospital, known colloquially as Bart's, is one of London's oldest and most enduring medical institutions. Founded in 1123, it has served through countless plagues, wars, and disasters, and by the Victorian era, it was a symbol of both hope and despair. The hospital was at the center of the city's fight against infectious diseases, and its overworked staff faced immense challenges, much like the fictional Nurse Emily. Although the specific tale of Nurse Ravenscroft is fictional, stories of ghostly nurses and doctors from this era have been part of London's lore. Many hospitals in England, particularly those dating back centuries, are reputed to have their share of hauntings, fueled by the immense suffering and death witnessed within their walls.